Today we are continuing our intuitive eating series with principle number 6, discover the satisfaction factor. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Melissa. I'm a dietitian, and here on my channel we talk about all things food and nutrition. So if you like that, make sure you're subscribed. Like I said, today we are continuing our intuitive eating series. If you haven't been to my channel before, then I have taken kind of a deep dive into intuitive eating, and I've made a pretty in-depth video on each of the 10 principles of intuitive eating. I haven't done all 10 yet. I'm on number 6. But so if you would like to start your intuitive eating journey, get more information about intuitive eating, then make sure to give those a watch. I will link the playlist somewhere around here. Today we are talking about principle number 6, which is discover the satisfaction factor. So as you might remember, the last principle that we talked about was feel your fullness. And I feel like it's kind of easy to think that fullness and satisfaction are the same thing, but I think it's a very important distinction to make, that fullness and satisfaction are quite different from each other. I mean, think about it. Have you ever eaten a meal and you feel physically full, but yet you want to continue eating, or you feel like you need something else, or you just don't feel satisfied? That just goes to show that there is a big difference between the two, and that physical fullness does not always mean satisfaction. So some of the reasons that you might feel full but not satisfied could be that you aren't actually eating the things that your body is craving, that you don't actually like the food you're eating. And both of these are very common when it comes to diet culture and restriction. You know, we end up eating all these foods that are supposedly healthy, but they don't taste good. So you're just eating them, you're feeling full, and then you're just never feeling satisfied because you didn't actually enjoy your meal. And you were maybe craving something else, but according to your meal plan, you had to eat this thing, so you ate that instead, and you just don't feel satisfied. So that is very common when it comes to restriction, when it comes to dieting. And when it comes to diet culture and diet cycling, I feel like satisfaction really plays such a huge role in that diet cycle. You know, you're restricting, you're not eating what you want to eat, you are only eating certain foods, you're cutting certain foods out, and you go so long without feeling satisfied that, you know, you can only do that for so long before you give in, and then you end up eating all those foods that you were craving, and then you end up overeating them or binging on them, and then we go right back into the cycle of then feeling guilty, starting to eat the foods that you don't like and don't satisfy you again, and then doing it all over again. So I really feel like satisfaction is really one of the things at the root of that diet binge cycle. And that's why discovering the satisfaction factor and finding foods that you actually like, finding foods that satisfy you, is such an important principle when it comes to intuitive eating and when it comes to breaking that diet cycle. And I really do hear this from patients in real life all the time. You know, we are talking and someone mentions how like they just always crave cookies at night and they just really want cookies. So then they end up eating like grapes instead, and then that's not satisfying. And even though they're not hungry, they're still eating the grapes because they still want that sweets. So they end up eating tons of grapes, and then that's still not satisfying. So they try something else, eat a lot of that, still they're not satisfied, and then they end up eating the cookie or 5 cookies or whatever it is. So instead of just having that cookie in the first place and feeling satisfied, they've now overeaten several things, still not felt satisfied, and then eaten the cookie anyways. So that just goes to show how powerful satisfaction can be, and what a big part of kind of diet culture and that diet cycle it is. And I feel like that's probably happened to most of us. You know, we try to find a healthier version of whatever we're craving, and then that still doesn't satisfy us, or we don't even like it, but we're just trying to pretend it is the less healthy version of it, whatever it is we're craving. And then we just end up eating that thing and feeling guilty about it in the end. So let's stop doing that. Let's talk about a few ways that you can increase the satisfaction and discover the satisfaction factor in your food. So first things first, you have to figure out what you like and what you want. This might sound kind of silly, but honestly, if you have been in a diet cycle for years and years and years, like most of us have been, you might not even know what you like anymore. And this can go both ways. It can be, you know, you've kind of tricked yourself into liking the healthier version of some of your favorite foods. And then once you kind of reevaluate, you realize you actually don't like those things. You're just eating them because you were told to eat them. And that can also go for those kind of off limits foods, you know, if you never let yourself have fried chicken or something like that, and you just idolize fried chicken in your mind and you want it so bad and you remember it just being the best thing that you have ever tasted, and then you eat it and then it's really not that great. So it can go for foods that you've kind of built up in your mind and then you end up not really liking them, or it can go for health foods that you have kind of tried to convince yourself that you like and you don't actually like them. So the first step is to actually figure out what you like. No foods are off limits here, so eat what you feel like you're craving and then evaluate and discover if you actually like those things. And once you've figured that out, start to pay attention to what you're actually craving and when you're craving it. Don't use any external factors to figure that out. You don't need to look to the clock or to other people to tell you when and what to eat. So figure out when you're hungry, figure out what you want. Like I said, no foods are off limits here. So just kind of experiment, let yourself have what you're craving. And once you're actually allowing yourself to eat the foods that you actually want, you're gonna see so much satisfaction in your food that you didn't have before. Number 2 is make eating an enjoyable experience. Make the actual mealtime a good experience for you. When you're actually enjoying yourself, your food is gonna be more satisfying. So things like maybe eating on like a nice plate instead of a paper plate, or eating outside in the sunshine, or eating with a friend, going to a restaurant that you just love the ambiance. Make that meal enjoyable, and all those factors will lead to increased satisfaction. I mean, think about, you know, eating a meal that you don't really like to begin with, but because of your meal plan or whatever it is, you have to eat it. You're just kind of throw it together, or it's like been in the fridge for a few days and you're just reheating it. You're stressed because you don't want to eat this, but you're going to feel guilty if you don't eat it. You're eating by yourself because you don't want to go out to a restaurant with your friends because there's nothing on the menu. All of these negative factors can contribute to not being satisfied with that meal. So create an enjoyable experience around eating and you will feel so much more satisfaction. And finally, number 3, try to minimize distractions as much as you can. Obviously, sometimes you have to eat quickly. You have to eat while you're working. These things happen, but while you are trying to discover the satisfaction factor, try to minimize those distractions. So don't watch TV or stay on your phone or answer emails while you're eating, because any distractions take away from the actual food. I mean, think about it. If you are just sitting there answering emails and you're just kind of eating your food mindlessly, and then you look down and all of a sudden your food's gone, but you don't even really feel like you tasted it or really even had a meal. Or, you know, when you're mindlessly eating something while you're watching TV, you're not really even tasting that food. You're just kind of going through the motions, and that does not create any satisfaction because you're not even tasting it and you're not even feeling it or getting any enjoyment out of it. You're really just going through the motions of eating, and it's not creating any satisfaction for you. So minimizing those distractions, checking in with yourself throughout the meal, you know, every 5 or 10 minutes or halfway through your meal, whatever you want that to be, just check in with yourself, ask yourself, am I still enjoying this? Am I full? Am I satisfied? Do I need something else to make me feel satisfied? Having those check-ins with yourself is really important in determining what is going to satisfy you and making sure that you are satisfied after a meal. So in conclusion, satisfaction is so important, and it is different than fullness. And it's important to eat foods that we like, eat foods that our body is craving, so that we can feel satisfied and we're not just eating to eat, just going through the motions and not even tasting our food or eating foods that we don't like. This is such an important step to breaking that diet cycle and learning to trust your body. So I hope that you learned something today. If you are currently on an intuitive eating journey, let us know how it's going down below. Let us know what you do to help discover satisfaction. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Instagram as well. I post lots of food pictures and intuitive eating tips and things like that, so be sure to follow me on there as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next week, and stay tuned in a couple weeks for number 7 in the intuitive eating series. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.